Welcome to the Blank Line Podcast. This is August the 18th, 2018. With you today is myself, Carl, the always wonderful Joel.
What up?
And the incredibly tiny Mike. How's it going? Welcome back to the show, Michael.
Hello, and thank you for having me back.
It has been about a month, and as you can see, we started with the Blank Line. Last time we went through, we decided, we're not sold on the name. We like the line. We like to stay as a line. And we got the recommendation from a number of you out there that you started to fall in love with the name Blank Line. What it encompasses, what it reminds us of, what was stolen from us, and where we are now. So that's what we're doing. We are officially the Blank Line Podcast. How does it feel to have an official name again, not to be interim?
It feels good. I feel like I've been walking around in awkward clothing for the last couple of months. I mean, not too different than my teenage years. But no, it feels good to finally have a name that we can call ourselves again without having to bleep it out on the podcast. It feels good.
Yeah, sure.
The excitement is palpable.
Yeah, Joel has a lot of passions in life. The pork shoulder in his smoker right now is one of them. Coming up with a name for the show, not one of those passions.
It's true. 44 minutes and 30 seconds. That's when I have to go add more wood to my smoker. I
might have to run out halfway through this show, so I'll just let you guys do your thing. I won't do it in 44 minutes, though. Because I've got a brisket. It's smoking day. It's just so we'll let Mike ruminate on whatever thoughts he has. So here's a heads up, Mike.
Well, I hate to tell you guys, but I just put some Hot Pockets in the microwave. So in about 2.5 minutes, I'm going to have some molten hot pepperoni cheese all over my face.
Yeah, but not only that, you're also going to have ice cold cheese right in the middle.
It's the finer things in life, Carl.
Yeah, that's the best way to start a day, with ice cold molten lava cheese. Somehow that they pull that off. On today's show, we are going to be talking about many things. We are going to talk about the NFL season getting started up, some latest news in baseball. Rumors are Mike has a weird question for us later in the day. Before we get into any of that, let's remind everyone about the Alberta Podcast Network and ATB. We're always talking about how they're involved in the community, involved in what they do. atb.com/listens. They want to know how they can be involved with you. So head over there. Let them know what you are looking for, how they can help you. And most importantly, if they ask, let them know that we sent you, because it's important. They care that we care. So head over to atb.com and find out all the ways that ATB can be your bank of choice. And they're also the official bank of the Alberta Podcast Network, which is a great thing. So do that. You will not regret it. NFL season is getting started up. Joel, our teams are playing in one of the most meaningless games imaginable today. And I know that because this is the first time that we've ever talked about the fact that the Seahawks and Chargers play today.
Oh, yeah. Let's get some football.
Right? I think the only thing Joel's less passionate about than names of podcasts is preseason football.
Yeah. I don't like preseason. It's really bad. It's really bad. Do you guys watch it? Preseason games?
Oh, I consume every spare second of my fourth string cornerback playing third string wide receiver during week 3 of the preseason.
Why do you gotta knock Richard Sherman like that?
Whoa! Shots fired. And I'm just impressed you think he's that high on the depth chart right now.
Poor guy.
I'm not going to lie. I would 100% watch a game if they were like, Richard Sherman's going to play wide receiver the entire day, and to watch other cornerbacks get to have a chance against him. I would show up for that. Jalen Ramsey would want a piece of that.
Oh, Jalen Ramsey, no way. He's probably got Sherman 87th among third string cornerbacks.
So with the NFL getting started up, let's dive into this. One thing that I thought of when we were starting to to talk about some of these topics, it's something that I'm not sure I've ever actually asked Joel about. So Joel, recently, I guess within the last 10 years, I'm not sure the exact dates of the moves, but Joel and I both switched NFL allegiances.
Mm-hmm.
Joel, now a Seahawks fan, me now a Chargers fan, formerly Vikings for me, and Eagles for Joel. With the Eagles coming off the Super Bowl, do you still think in the back of your head, like, I could have been an Eagles fan, or is it not even a thought? Like, is there a little bit of, like,
No.
thoughts of what could have been?
Not at all. I don't think, like, I couldn't watch Eagles games. So there was nothing to it. I forgot, I actually, forgot I was an Eagles fan as a young buck growing up.
So did most Eagles fans from 2008 to 2017.
It's true. So I loved me some Terrell Owens. The guy was amazing. So this is basically the only reason why I was an Eagles fan. But I don't know. I don't really remember it. I remember more that you used to be a Vikings fan than I used to be an Eagles fan, because I find it hilarious that Brett Favre is so linked to your sports fandom.
That's very true. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I'm all right with the fact that I've abandoned them, because if you were to do that, I've enjoyed being a Chargers fan, as terrible as they've been the last few years. So,
well, but they haven't been terrible. They've been they are living in that, we're mediocre. We're not terrible, but we're not good.
Sort of. They've sort of lived in that, but then they also had, what was it, 2 years ago? They finished 2-14. I think that's pretty terrible. I think that's fairly atrocious.
I guess so. I guess the biggest thing is, I think about, because, the NFL is so dependent on the QB, and you've had that. And so,
it stopped us from being super terrible.
Exactly. That's the thing. As long as you have that QB, in that, I get to live in that world now where, we have a really good QB, but everyone else is awful, and so we're going to win 5 games every year for the next, 3 years, and it's going to be amazing.
You'll do better than that. It's
no.
You've got some stuff. I'm hoping. Sad sports Joel is not a happy thing to experience.
I know. You guys sound so spoiled and entitled right now. As a 49ers fan, I am so excited to enter into the era of having a decent quarterback and an awful rest of the roster. This is something I've been looking forward to for the past 2 or 3 years, of being actually terrible. So make some room on the bandwagon of mediocrity, fellas. I am excited to be here.
Are we sure Garoppolo's good? This is...
I was going to say, that's a jump there, Mike.
I am as sure that Garoppolo is good as I am that the rest of the Seahawks roster is awful.
Fair enough. It's Bobby Wagner you're talking about here, man. Let's be careful here.
Hey, Brandon Marshall, you've got someone to throw to now.
Yeah. Doug Baldwin, come on now. I'm allowed to take shots at my team. Don't you even think about taking shots at my team, though. That's like siblings. Do you guys have that as growing up? It's like you could make fun of your siblings all you want, but the minute someone else made fun of your brother or sister, you just jumped all over them.
Yes, unless it was a really good burn, in which case I might jump on a little bit with them.
Oh, don't be Mike's brother.
Yeah. That sounds terrible. We're gonna have to do some digging and find out some of the worst ways that Mike has treated his siblings in the past. Maybe that'll be a future episode of the show. So Mike, you've got your Garoppolo, you've got your Richard Sherman. What else has you excited about this NFL season?
Not a whole lot in terms of my own team, but looking at some of the prop bets, I am really looking forward to some of the young players who are entering the league. Looking at the offensive and defensive rookies of the year, I think there's going to be a lot of action. I mean, Saquon Barkley is a young player who we haven't seen someone of his pedigree entering the league in a couple years. I mean, Todd Gurley is the one who comes to mind most recently. But I mean, everything that we've seen from the guy, both from the college perspective, from the stats, from his combine performance, and then just looking at the fact that his legs are freaking tree trunks. I am really looking forward to the Saquon era and seeing what he can do to terrorize some of the defenses. You know, thinking of shades of a young Adrian Peterson and how exciting that was when he first entered the league. So I'm placing a lot of my attention on seeing what he's able to do early out of the gates. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm a little, skeptical. Whenever I start to see a rookie come into training camp and all of a sudden, immediately has injury problems, I start to temper my expectations because NFL injuries, I don't trust those injury reports. He could go from I could be back at camp any day now to I'm actually out for the year and I'm never going to play. Or every game he's a little bit banged up. And so I'm hoping that with the Saquon Barkley injuries that he's got to the old hammy aren't that bad. I would love to see him be exciting. I'm not, I have Odell Beckham on my dynasty team, so I'm a little bit on the Giants bandwagon. But I want nothing to do with old Eli and the rest of that team there. So if he was on a different team, I could be a lot more excited about it. I don't really want the Giants to succeed. I have this irrational dislike. I guess it's not that irrational. Eli did say he didn't want to play for my Chargers, so
yeah, but that was before you were a Chargers fan.
Yes, but they were still 1A at the time.
They were at least 2. You hadn't fully shifted yet.
No, when I fully shifted, they went from 1A to 1, and the Vikings went to who knows where. Not in the top half.
Interesting. This is gonna we should really do a deep dive into changing sports allegiances one time. Cause
why don't we do that now?
Well, we could, I guess. I just don't. I need to think about this. Cause it is a lot. Have you guys, how many teams have you guys changed over the years?
Well, I was about to say, I think this is something that I would love to ask you guys some questions about eventually after you thought about it, because from my perspective, I've been very spoiled that all of my teams are contained within, a 15 to 20 mile radius of where I live. So it's never been a question of me changing sports allegiances. So I would love to hear more from you guys about what was the breaking point? What's the experience leading up to that point? And, wondering actually, Carl, you answered this a little bit right now, but I imagine that it must be almost like severing a personal relationship. And I'm curious about what kind of feelings linger after you've jumped ship. I mean, do you still look back fondly at your old team sometimes, or do you look back at them with disgust?
I think I look back on the Vikings. When I see the Vikings, they're moderately good now, but it's been long enough that I just see them as a team, right? I don't look at them and be look at them with old Teddy Bridgewater and formerly Adrian Peterson, and be jealous of their successes or anything like that. I'm not at the point where I wish ill upon them. I certainly did at the time, but I've definitely moved on beyond that. So yeah, for me, it's something where it's been what, 10 years or so, less than that, 7 years. Since I've made the swap, and I'm okay with it. I have no regrets. However, I have 100% solidified the fact that I can't do it again. I cannot make another switch to another team after an extended point in time, because then it's who are you, right? It's you go from long-term relationship to long-term relationship. Eventually the problem is you. It's probably you at some point, and I don't want me to be the problem. So I'm sticking with the Chargers. We've had some rough years, and I look forward to coming out on the other side of this.
The problem that you find yourself in, Carl, is that you always have, like you said, you had a 1A team. So it's not like you had your favorite team and then here's a team that I like to follow when my team's not playing. But you have no, this is my second team. You actually have, and you you live in this space in other sports as well. And so, like, I don't believe you at all when you say, oh, well, I can't change it all again. Like, you play with that line so closely that I am almost positive you'll change again at some point, whether it's football, hockey, baseball. At some point, you're going to change again because you play with that.
It's not going to be baseball because, like, as much as, like, there's the proximity isn't the case. Like, Toronto is Canada's only team. Same reason I'm not going to switch to basketball. Like, I will be a Raptors fan. I will be a Blue Jays fan because that's, as much as they're thousands of kilometers away, they're the local team to a degree. So for that, those are solidified. Hockey, I think if there was any point in time where I would have switched, it would have been the season that the Avalanche were terrible, finished dead last in the league, and then drafted fourth after losing out of the entire lottery the next season. Like, if there was any rock bottom point, that was it. I do not see myself leaving. I think I've talked about this on the show before. I have, like, when I was younger and not living in a location with people or teams that I liked. As a teenager, I did, like, early teens, flipped and flopped almost like yearly, mid-season, who I would cheer for. But that's because there was nothing close. The time zones were terrible. It was on Newfoundland, so it was somehow like 2.5 hours or an hour and a half beyond East Coast time. So, like, Leafs games start at 8:30. So I'm not watching most games. So yeah, there was a lot of change there, but ever since then I will not be switching away from the Avalanche. And I already talked about football. I don't think as much. I know you don't trust my bandwagon teams as being real, but I think we saw this year how easily I will abandon the bandwagon team. I'm not even going to have one this year. The bandwagon team is done.
Right, until like the Hurricanes or the Capitals start making a push again, and then you'll jump back on that. Because that's what happened with the Capitals.
Well, the Capital, for sure, they were the team that I was cheering for in the playoffs once the Avalanche were gone. But with the Avs still in it, I couldn't have cared less about the Caps. So
I'm not 100% sold on this, but I get, like, I think as a kid, you, like, I think everyone cheered for different teams as a kid because of, like, and I think, like, that's where the star power comes into. Like, I loved the Dallas Mavericks as a kid because, like, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, like, I loved watching those guys play. Like, and definitely the Canada factor played into it, right? So, like, there was an actually good Canadian player, and so I don't know if they were ever, like, my favorites over the Raptors, but I definitely liked them, and I would say, but that was as a kid. As I, like, moved into adulthood, you kind of just, I kind of lost all of those teams. Like, I would still say I have teams that are, like, second in almost every sport, except probably baseball. I don't think. Oh no, baseball I do. I was gonna say it's probably basketball now where I don't have a second. I don't know.
Are the D-backs still your second team?
Yeah, baseball? I tend to watch them if, like, the Yankees aren't playing. I tend to watch the D-backs. But I still, like, it's never gotten close to where I'd say, like, they're a 1A. It's still like a 1, and D-back, they're probably that or a 3. Like, so,
like, if the Yankees and the D-backs play each other, there is no conflict in your mind about what you want to happen in that game.
No, definitely not. And I was young enough when the D-backs played the Yankees in the World Series and beat them that, like, I don't really remember much about that time. And that was also, like, them coming off of winning 4 and 5 years. So you're not, like, it's kind of like, yeah, you're sad that they lost, but it's not heartbreaking. Like, if the Golden State Warriors lose this year, it's not going to be heartbreaking as much as it would have been because you've won however many in the last few years. It's not, like, you're sad. Yeah, it sucks, but it's not, you're not, like, devastated because
I love that Joel's sitting here and saying that Luis Gonzalez's walk-off Game 7 hit isn't heartbreaking. Like, when Mike talked earlier about, like, the rich complaining about thing, like, I just won 4-5. Who cares if I just had, like, a walk-off Game 7 loss? Whatever. I'll win again. I'll buy another World Series. It's fine.
Yeah,
All right, so let me ask you guys this.
You were just like listing facts there, right, Carl? Because like I agree, like I'm not like it wasn't.
I was that was the point.
Yeah, it's not. I was like, I will never be upset if my team does everything they possibly can to win. So if they buy a World Series, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So I've got one question that I want to use to like sort of wrap up the conversation around sports fandom and moving from team to team. So I think your guys' situation is heavily impacted by location. You know, talking about which baseball teams, which football teams. For the most part, you guys are not located right next to the teams that you root for anymore. So what would happen if a new professional sports team is dropped right on top of you guys? Let's say a new MLB team or an NBA team is dropped right down the street in Calgary, and you know there is no history of bad relationships with an owning group or a front office, so you're really starting from square one. How does that impact your love for the Raptors? Or if it was a baseball team, your love for the Yankees? How does this impact you if a team is dropped right on your doorstep?
I think for me, what makes it an easier decision is the fact that, like, I know that if they were to try to put another professional team in Calgary, it would fail and they would leave. So, like, it's not a thought that I ever actually have to think about. Like, that's never a question in my mind. So yeah, and like, I already don't cheer for the professional team that's in this city, so I can do it again.
But I know with the team that's in this city, I mean, you don't necessarily appreciate the front office or the ownership, and like there's a history there. But like, you know, if it was starting from square one, if the team was going to be successful, if you didn't have all these caveats in your head already of why it's not going to work, if you're really starting from square one, from scratch, you know, like, do you try to hold that team at arm's distance, saying that I want to hold on to my fandom, or are you open to falling in love with a new team?
I would be open to it. I think it would be difficult, and I think it depends on the sport. Like, I think, like, I have too much history with the Yankees, because, like, and that was a family thing, that, like, so I grew up as a Yankees fan because of my family were Yankees fans, and so that would be different. I think the Raptors, like, I'd probably be more willing to make a shift to basketball because, like, there's not as much history there, and so I think that, like, I don't know if, like, there's, like, I can't even wrap my head around NFL because that's not happening. Like, that's just
yeah, they can't even sell out a CFL stadium anymore, let alone a NFL stadium.
Like, so, like, that's just, I can't even wrap my head around what that would look like. Not that the others two would be any more successful, but like, it just, so here's the one can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
This is a general one. If you switch franchises or like teams that you cheer for, and this kind of goes to the like Eli thing, can you claim history from that team before you were a fan? So like, can you claim hatred for another team? So like, could you have been a Blue Jay, like, so let's say you become a Blue Jays fans 3 years after the Odor thing, right? It's like all of a sudden you become a fan 3 or 4 years after. You were an adult when it happened. So you were like, or like you were old enough to know that it happened, know about what was going on. But can you claim that as, like, can you claim the fire in your heart against that team, or claim a championship? Like, if I switch back to the Eagles, could I claim that championship as like, yeah, I was a fan when that happened, or not? I wasn't a fan, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go, Mike.
I was going to say, I have to say that, when I think of myself in those situations, I have to honor the integrity of the memory as it occurred to me. And if I was not a fan of the team, and if I didn't have such an emotional anchor or foothold with the team in terms of who I root for and who I root against, I feel like it would be kind of dishonest to myself to claim that I hated this individual way back when, if I was honestly pretty impartial to them or didn't even care that much about them because they weren't on my favorite team or my most hated team back then.
I think that there's both sides of it. I get that side, but I think like the championship side, like if you're arguing about like the classic sports argument that's foolish of like which sports franchise is the best one, right? Like you're going to start throwing out things for your team that happened when you weren't even alive, right? Like if you're talking about the Yankees, Joel, and someone's like, the Yankees are a terrible franchise, they're an embarrassment, they're a disaster, and you're like, well, they've won 27 World Series, like they're pretty good. Those 27 World Series did not happen, all of them during your lifetime, right? So you're gonna claim some of that. You're gonna say, okay, these are things that happened that are part of this team, but rivalries that occurred, the starting point of that rivalry, it will become harder to get in unless that rivalry consistently gets stoked.
So when I totally hear what you're saying, but I feel that, if we're talking about, what do we passionately talk about when we're talking about our fandoms, I feel that if you just start liking a new team today or tomorrow, it's going to take you a while. It's going to take a little bit of investment and return on that emotional investment for you to really embrace and evangelize and advocate for your love of that team by saying these things. I think there's a difference between saying the team that I root for has won 27 championships and saying that I know my team is the best and I love my team because we have done these things. I think there's a little bit of space between those where you have to invest in, and like as Joel said, spend some years and have some family ties to it, really dig those emotional roots with the team before like you're really saying that with the emotional investment that you do when it's your true favorite team. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think, I'm on that page as well, because I think you open yourself up to have, if you're in, because usually it comes in because you're having a debate about something or a conversation. You open yourself up to well, you weren't even a fan when that happened. And that is, so then all of a sudden, I feel like the validity of that argument is lessened as soon as that kind of comes out. So, and with those chimes, apparently it's time to move on. I don't know. Did you guys hear those chimes?
I did hear those chimes, yeah.
Let's go time to move on.
One more NFL question for the year. Looking at the odds for Super Bowl 53, New England Patriots, unfortunately, 6.5 to 1 odds. The Los Angeles Rams coming in second with 8.5. Of our teams, Mike's 49ers. Mike is not the only one excited about the 49ers this year. They have looking like the 10th, 11th best odds at 22 to 1. Right behind them, my Chargers with 25 to 1 and down slightly more, 55 to 1 for Joel's Seattle Seahawks. I'm a little shocked. Are there any who would you, I didn't give the full list because there's nothing worse than hearing someone list off 32 numbers, but who are you looking at as your pick? If you were to lay some money down on it, who would you be looking at for this year's Super Bowl?
I will be the first one to say that I would lay some money against the Niners getting to the Super Bowl. As in love with the roster and the changes and the momentum that we built, as in love with all that as I am, I do not think that we have the 10th best chance to win the championship this year. So I would be staying away. So who I am very curious about. So we're talking about the Patriots. We're talking about some of these other teams with high odds. When I'm looking at the MVP odds, somebody's at the top of the list whose team is not mentioned as one of the most likely champions. Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers is one of the odds-on favorites to win the MVP of the NFL in this season, but the Packers are not listed as one of the prohibitive favorites.
I mean, they are fifth, so they do have 11 to 1 odds, so they're not that bad.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have the odds, I'm looking, he's an odds-on favorite over Tom Brady for the MVP. So I'm hard pressed to see him realizing the performance that he'll need to beat Tom Brady in that regard. But also, if he has that performance, I do expect the Packers to be making it a deep, deep run to get to the Super Bowl this year.
Well, yeah, you look at this, the odds that they have. In the NFC, they're behind the Rams and the Eagles. So they're having them listed as the third best shot in that conference to make it to the Super Bowl. I think that's pretty good. I would not be surprised if a Super Bowl contender should be on, those top 5-6 teams. So yeah, I don't, that doesn't surprise me at all. And honestly, I think if you look at, there's consistently, Jimmy Graham gives Aaron Rodgers a brand new weapon that he's going to take some good advantage of this year. So yeah, I
would just like to point out the coincidence of how hard Joel yawned when we started talking about Jimmy Graham. I don't see that as an unconnected, uncorrelated fact.
Houston Texans 20-1. That's where I go, because you never go like high, you never go. Like, you want one of those middle teams that has good value or whatever, right? Like, if you're getting, because, like, yeah, anyone can say, like, it's not, like, impressive if you say, hey, like, the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. Because, like, first off, everybody hates you. Second off, of course, like, they're always really good. But, like, if you're looking, like, at those middle teams, I like the Houston Texans. And, like, that, everything, like, determines on, like, if what's-his-face...
If Deshaun Watson can connect with DeAndre Hopkins, and if J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney can stay healthy on that D-line to provide some of the best front four action in the league. I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, that was where I was looking at as well. Similarly, I think, same thing. We saw, if I'm going a little deeper, there's not much good deeper. Joel stole my Texans. I'm going to go with the Texans as well.
I didn't steal anything. You're stealing mine.
That's fine.
There we go. The official sleeper team of the Blink Line podcast for this football season.
There you go. The Houston Texans. There was an event in the world of baseball this past week that kind of caught attention of a lot of people. Ronald Acuna Jr.
Oh, I thought we were talking about when the Yankees beat the Jays last night. Sorry, my bad.
No, my team's terrible this year. You guys can finish the show.
So, Joel, do you remember when Carl quit the podcast?
Apparently. Ronald Acuna. Mike, tell me what happened with Ronald Acuna.
Okay, so recently when their teams were playing each other, Ronald Acuna was at bat. And the Marlins pitcher, Jose Urena, led an inside fastball that nailed Acuna and actually put him out for the count and took him out of the game. After the game, pretty much all of sports media, all of sports fandom was pretty aligned against Urena as saying that he unfairly targeted somebody and he hit him in a weak spot. Hitting him in a place where he knew he was going to be injuring the other player. And Urena vehemently denied this. He told everybody that was asking him and criticizing him, not what I was trying to do. Sure, I was throwing an inside pitch. I was trying to brush him off a little bit. I think the words he used was I was trying to move the feet or something like that. But the rest of us are pretty much not having it. No, not a lot of people believe Urena. A lot of people believe that a pitch that was thrown that hard and landing in a spot that small, but that was going to be so impactful to the opposing team, they see it as a clear case of targeting. So what I would love to talk about is, how much of this do you believe? I mean, do you believe Urena when he is saying that he wasn't targeting him, that he was just trying to brush him off, and this is just a really unfortunate accident of a misplaced fastball? Do you believe that at all?
I don't think anybody believes that. I think the big unless you really want to take the side that you actually believe that, I think the bigger question is he got 6 games, so he's missing sort of one start, not really though, because he's just gonna pitch on day 7 or whatever. Do you think baseball should care more about this? Because I think, and I don't know how you do it, but throwing almost 100-mile-an-hour hard baseball at someone seems like a not cool thing. You could kill someone.
Absolutely, yeah. So where my head was going on this is, you hear the world in general caring a lot more about the sort of head injuries and CTE issues that we're seeing come out of the NFL. While the league is still wildly popular, there is a rising tide of public perception that says, maybe this sport needs to tone it down a little bit with the head-to-head contact. And you see rule changes and the NFL trying to shape behaviors of the players, saying, do not lead with your head. We're going to see an emphasis this year of running backs not supposed to be lowering their head to initiate contact with defenders. And we see Devontae Freeman in Atlanta saying, good luck with that. I think I'm going to accrue some fines because that's just how I run. So as we're seeing society care more and more about the brain health and about the CTE issues in one sport, I have to suspect that we're going to start seeing a lot of that concern bleeding over into other sports. And this kind of targeting activity, even though this wasn't necessarily targeted at Acuna's head, this sort of targeting activity, I think, is a fairly slippery slope that can lead towards a lot more attention and a lot more penalties if there is pretty clear evidence that it was intentionally trying to hurt another player. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Well, and I just think that I think it's just dumb that they're targeting a guy because he hit a couple home runs and sort of celebrated about it. Like we're getting boring in sports. We're getting boring. You can't celebrate in the NFL anymore. You can't hit, did you see the guy, the rookie Cubs hitter that hit a walk-off grand slam? So they were down 3-0. He hits a grand slam with 2 outs, 2 strikes in the bottom of the ninth to win the game. And he had to apologize for sort of flipping his bat.
I want an apology for the apology. I want an apology from whoever pressured him to apologize, because I know where you're going with this, and that's crazy. If you cannot celebrate being in your rookie season and living out the closest approximation to your childhood fantasies that any kid almost ever gets, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, full count, that is the stuff that literally childhood dreams are made of. If you are not allowed to celebrate and indulge in the realization of those childhood fantasies, I'm not sure I want to live on this planet anymore, Joel.
It's not even crazy stuff. You should lose your mind when you hit a walk-off grand slam.
I lose my mind when I do something good in video games, Joel.
It doesn't happen very often, does it?
Not these days.
Oh, what was that? Is someone back?
Guys, my smoker is restocked. I am ready to go. Let's talk about some baseball. The Acuna Urena thing. I'm with you, Joel, with the needing to take a stronger stance against these things. Because he got kicked out of that game, so he threw literally one pitch out of the game, so he'll miss that game. He'll
not originally though.
I know. They had to ponder it. He was warming up, and they were like, maybe you shouldn't stay. Maybe we should make you go. And so I look at these things, and I'm like, well, okay, how do you clamp down on it? And starting with a suspension, because in theory, they do 6 games to try to make it so that you miss multiple, but that's not going to happen. He's going to miss 1 start. And you go from there. So start number 1 is increasing penalties, right? If you're intentionally hitting someone, unless you hit someone with a bat, which you will get a giant suspension or fight, which you will probably get at minimum the suspension he got. A fist is going to cause a lot less damage than that baseball will. And did he hit him in one of the best spots to be hit? Yeah, there's a lot of muscles in the back of a guy who can jack multiple lead off the game home runs, right? You hit me in the back, I'm going to be a little tender. Acuna can handle his own. He's got some muscle there. It's not but you hit someone in the knee, you start hitting someone in the joints, in the hands. You're breaking something, you're hurting something. They're going to be gone for a while, though. That's step number 1. If you actually care about the safety of the batters, you need to say, hey, you can't intentionally be throwing 97-mile-an-hour fastballs at people. It's not a thing that we should be allowing. So, there's that side of it. Like you need to clamp down on that, and I'm fine with it. I like the fact that you can have some fun with the game, and if someone doesn't like it and their reaction to it is I'm gonna hit you with the ball because you're very good at this game we play, you don't get to play that game. Like if you're gonna throw a temper tantrum like that, you don't get to play.
Yeah, and this is a gross oversimplification of the issues and what happened. But if essentially what you're saying is you hurt my feelings, I am going to attack you, then maybe you need to take 5 minutes and start to think about how this fits into the bigger picture of things. Is that really what we want to be promoting with our sports leagues and with our primary modes of entertainment?
Right. Like you hurt my feelings, but it also wasn't personal, and I'm going to attack you.
Yeah.
Like
you hurt my friend's feelings because you did your job better than he did his job.
Yeah, like it's not like people, like, if someone, like, comes at you personally, yeah, that's going to annoy you. Maybe you do something about it. But, like, it's like, oh, I tried to do my job and you beat me at it. I'm now going to hurt you. Like, it's just, I don't know. But the result of all of this is that sports we're going to get boring, unpassionate players that don't want to talk, don't want to do anything. Just that's what it's going to turn into if we don't see baseball better police these things.
Yeah, and we see, if you look at the list of players who are lead the all time in hit by pitch, it's the best players in the league. And so I don't see a lot of, sure, you can get targeted in hockey, you'll target the superstar a little bit, but you're not doing it nearly as much as you would in baseball, where like you could do that. Football, basketball, like sure, you'll maybe foul them a little bit more, but like if you're taking repeated flagrants against Steph Curry or Kawhi Leonard, like that's not going to go well for you. That's not a thing you're going to be allowed to do. They're not going to be like, you're going to miss 6 games, which is equivalent to what? Like that's 3 basketball games. Like that's not going to fly. And especially as a starter, like that's not even a full basketball game. They're like, you're just going to get kicked out in the second quarter and you can come back tomorrow.
I hear it. This is a problem.
So what do you obviously we don't think that this should happen, but is there anything that you think, other than increasing suspensions, is there anything you would like to see change?
I would like to see, if you hit a player, you have to go to the batting cages behind the dugout and get hit with a ball of the same speed.
Okay, I can get behind that.
In the same spot.
That is a lot more mature than my suggestion. I was going to suggest, and solving violence with violence is not the answer, folks, but I was going to suggest something similar, that if it's a clear case of retaliation or targeting, then we don't want the all-out brawl. But I do think the person you hit should be given one free shot back at you. Not with a bat or anything like that, but with an open hand slap to the face.
That seems less painful than my idea.
Are you sure? Think of Aaron Judge giving you a full wind-up, full body and force behind it. He knocks a ball 500 feet over the fence. If you give him the capacity to give you one open hand slap, you think that's going to hurt less?
And we're doing it as the
opening
in the pitch the next day. That's how the next day starts, is on the mound. Boom.
See, you'd have to choose someone else, because like Aaron Judge is too nice a guy. Like he wouldn't do it. Aaron Judge will just be like, he didn't hit me on purpose. So you got to think like Jose Bautista.
You intentionally hit Chase Utley, and he's going to come up there with his greasy hair and just slap you so hard in the face.
Oh no, he's not gonna. He's gonna rub it through his hair first and then slap you. Yeah. Oh, so gross.
I did see the other day minor league team. And like minor league sports are full of parents behaving terribly. This coach in baseball, former college pitcher who was coaching, and some of the dads on the team were mocking some of the players on the team that were performing worse. And so he made all of them stand in and take batting practice against him for about a half hour. And none of them got a single hit off of him. And he sent them home quite embarrassed. So I think that's a good way. If you can find a way to embarrass someone, that leaves a lasting. Physical scars and emotional scars are what we're going for here on the blank line.
Okay. Shame makes for a fantastic teacher.
You learn some stuff when that happens, for sure. Well, any other news in the worlds of sports that you're looking at this week, or should we jump into the weird question?
I'm good.
Oh, let's get weird then. All right, Jen. So this weird question, may not seem as weird at first blush, because I think we've all asked questions similar to this before. When you're breaking the ice with folks and asking them, if you can have lunch with any historical figure, like who would you have lunch with? Well, this is one of those similar questions. It's going to sound very familiar. If you could bring back any historical figure, living or dead, to have a second prime, a second lifetime with you, who would it be? But before we get into just answering with your blank answer, there's a little wrinkle to this. So you don't just get to snap your fingers and conjure out a celebrity historical figure, somebody important to you, out of thin air. No, there's a responsibility tied to this. You are going to be responsible for raising this historical figure. So it's not just saying, I want George Washington to come back to life. Well, in order for that to happen, you get gifted with little baby George Washington, little baby with a white beard and wooden teeth, who you then get to raise for the entirety of their life. And you have to hit the right notes to ensure that they actually end up being the historical figure that you envision them to be now. So with that in mind, I mean, Carl and Joel, if you could bring back anybody, and it could be somebody who's recently passed, it could be, I'm even going to give you guys a chance to say, it could be somebody who's in the twilight of their lives right now, so they can still technically be alive. They would be reborn as a baby version of themselves, and you have to raise them to be the great person that you hold them up to be in your mind. Who would you guys choose?
I am shocked of the fact that George Washington as a baby had wooden teeth.
Wooden teeth.
Yeah. I just could think of the fact of when he lost his baby wooden teeth and got adult wooden teeth. That must just been a special day for the Washington family.
It was an incredible day for all of America.
Because they knew this is going to be our president.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting question, because there's a lot of, thinking of sports, there's a lot of athletes who've passed on, and a lot of them who have for interesting reasons. I'm not sure with this question. I'm not sure I have what it takes to raise a professional athlete, though. This is my biggest concern. I look at it, I'm like, all right, so you were to take Wilt Chamberlain, for example. I'm like, I don't think I have what it takes to raise Wilt the Stilt into anything close to a professional athlete.
Well, see, you're thinking along the same lines as me, and I was thinking of, again, my own lack of direct parenting experience. So who am I to say that I can raise anybody, much less myself, into being a good human being? But I was saying, then how can I take my parenting out of the equation as much as possible? And so I was thinking in terms of physical freaks, who just has the best shot at being a professional athlete or somebody fantastic despite my influence. So I'm thinking of somebody like a Shaq, where probably the biggest ask of me is to keep that growing boy fed, and make sure that, as a 3-year-old, 6'7" and 245-pound individual, that I give Shaq enough calories, enough protein, and enough just opportunity to exercise to let him continue growing into what can probably still be a darn fine NBA big man. I don't know, Joel, you look very thoughtful.
Yeah, but Shaq's too young. That doesn't. I'm thinking
he's not dead yet.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you gotta go
I was frantically Googling, is
Shaq age.
Shaq dead.
We're talking 80 plus, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Shaq is unfair. It was an unfair example to use. but I'm simply trying to find somebody whose physical tools are strong enough that, like, my poor parenting wouldn't necessarily prevent them.
See, this conversation is going to be a problem for that because, like, just like how, like, just people are different now. Like, there was no LeBron in 1910. Like, that was, like, I don't think they were, like, was there physical freaks like that?
Okay, well, how about this, Joel? What would you do to raise a tiny little baby Babe Ruth to be able to grow up and rejoin the Yankees?
Not doing it.
Why not?
Because I don't want to. That seems like I don't need a little alcoholic smoking cigars.
A little drunk baby smoking cigars?
I don't want. No, I wouldn't go sports.
What would you do?
I don't even know if I'd go. Like, I need to find someone who is like zero influence on the world because, like, I don't want any responsibility. Like, do I have to even choose someone? Can I just, like, opt out and be like, I don't want anybody? Because, like, this sounds like a chore that I don't want.
Joel, you sound like you are the only actual parent among the three of us right now. That's what it's like.
It just because, like, and there's so much pressure. You're just like, because, like, there's like one of two ways you could go. Like, you could go like a George Washington, Abe Lincoln, someone who did good in the world. And be like, yeah, I'm going to raise you to do good. Again, like, or you could go like in the opposite direction and go like Hitler and be like, I'm going to raise you to not do bad. Like, so you could change.
But it's not going to. So you change that person, but it doesn't. It doesn't redo history.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question that I have would be.
Well, then why are you trying to raise them to be? What they like? So why does it matter how you raise them then?
I think there's a lot of pressure. Like if you were to pick an athlete, you would pick it because you would be like, it'd be cool to be the father of like this athlete, and then you get to go do these things. Because otherwise, like, and you know it, right? Like, you know that this child is capable of that. As an actual parent of an actual child, you have no idea what your child is capable of because you have not seen them live a life. You knowing what they can do. You can see that you could change Babe Ruth. You could make him not drink as much as he did. You could help them learn from the mistakes that you know, not from their own mistakes, but like those things. And I think it would be, honestly, for me, I would pick something now as we dive further into this. I would pick something for the sake of science. Someone that had, a different upbringing than myself. And then for the sake of science, try to figure out how much of behaviors is learned, how much of it is biological, and then figure that out. And it would be groundbreaking. And then at that point in time, it doesn't matter what the child did because now I am the well-known one.
Yeah, it seems like too much work.
Well, I think that's ultimately what this is a question of. I mean, if we're going to break it down to the meta level, it's like, what do you identify as the good that this individual brings to the world? If it's Gandhi, if I just need to bring world peace to planet Earth, and I say Gandhi, that's going to take a lot of freaking work for a scumbag like me to turn a baby into Gandhi. But is that work worth it in order for the end goal?
Is it, Mike?
If I was answering this question like 3 or 4 years ago before I'd met you guys, I'd say no, definitely not. But now that I'm a member of the blank line, yeah, just barely, but yeah.
Just barely.
Well, I'm glad that we've had I guess, positive impact, an impact on how you view your life. I don't think I would list like this person is someone because I wouldn't want to know. And it's not like I'm going to put it in the paper. It's not like I'm going to be like, because then people think you're crazy, right? If you're like, guys, this baby, it's Babe Ruth. Look how similar their baby pictures are. Exactly the same. This is totally Babe Ruth right here. No, not a thing. So it would take a very difficult time convincing people of that to be the case. So the societal pressure would be off. It would just be pressure put on myself. But I don't think I would pick an athlete or like someone famous, a political or social figure, because I wouldn't want to, whatever brought them to that point in time, I wouldn't want to have to try to live up to that. I'd probably just pick, like, I don't know, Joel. I could probably do a better job than on Joel.
I'm not a historical figure, though.
Oh yeah, you're not dead yet.
I've decided who I'm going with. All
right, who are you going with, Joel?
Made my decision. On the criteria of, I picked this person because they might be able to live longer than they did originally. I am going to go with Tupac.
Whoa!
He's only 25. Like, I figure I could probably get him to at least 35.
I can guarantee that you are not going to provide Tupac the life that he required to have the career that he did.
That's fine.
Tupac growing up in the burbs of Canada is a very different Tupac.
I'm okay with that. I'm not taking the pressure. Like, if I have to work to get this person to where they, like, to their career, like, it's just not going to happen. So, like, I'm okay with it. I'm just going to let him live his life. He'll probably make it till he's 50.
And he'll probably release, like, the most fire track about ice fishing that the world has ever heard.
Oh yeah, it's going to be lit.
Looking at that, I'm not sure who. I also was kind of going the realm of people that passed away too soon, but again, like, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of, like, athletes who do, obviously, because of mistakes, because of substances, things like that. Actors, you know, all kinds of things that people who passed away too soon. I'm not sure that I want. Again, I can't name the person I would pick because I do not know who they are. I would go with the unknown. So I would just be, like, scouring the obituaries of, like, people who died in the last. I'd start in the last year and I'd be like, who is someone who I think I could give a better shot to a fulfilling life than however this obituary claims they died.
So not the Notorious B.I.G.
I mean, I don't want our children to have a feud that ends up with them both dead.
They're not going to. We're going to teach them about respect.
Okay. What do we still, because, like, I don't know, I'm going to assume his birth certificate did not say Tupac, and I guarantee that Biggie's first name is not actually Notorious.
Christopher.
There you go. I knew Mike would have these
Chris Wallace is.
So, like, are we going with, like, do we give them their original names, or, like, do they get it entirely rebranded?
I have no idea. According to Wikipedia, Tupac's name was Lassane?
Tupac Amaru Shakur.
No, I don't know. I have, he says it was, well, is that his mom's name? No, his name was Lassane Parrish Crooks.
Yeah, that was his birth name.
That was his birth name.
So, we've learned things today.
He's considered by many as one of the best rappers of all time.
And also a really good street hockey player in Canada.
Yeah.
His wrist shot was unreal. And Biggie his goaltending was good. I assume he'd still be a big kid.
Filled up the whole frame.
Yeah. We had to buy a new net because Biggie was too big.
I like where we went with this. Mike,
did you give your thoughts?
Well,
do you wish to get in on this non-rap battle that we have going on here?
Yeah. I'm trying to be thoughtful of that and trying to come up with the name of a recently deceased rapper that can really help.
You just go to a musician and just bring back Kurt Cobain.
Well, I'll just go Jimi Hendrix then.
Okay.
All right.
I can see that. Be a good little threesome.
Yeah. They can start a boy band together.
What have we done to the world?
Made it better. We have made it better.
I have my answer. I would bring back Rich Cronin from LFO.
Ooh, I like that.
But it would have to be in the next month or so because it's his time of year.
Well, he's a boy. It's fine. If you were to bring back a lady, then you should bring back a summer girl. But that is good. I like that. I like what we've done here. Thank you, Mike, for bringing another very weird question. I never think of the things that you think of. It really pushes my boundaries.
That's the nicest way you could have put it.
The Alberta Podcast Network is the number one place that you should look for podcasts. If you're looking for a new show as well, if you're looking for shows in and about Alberta, this is the place for you. Lots of things happening and lots of shows being added to the network always. AlbertaPodcastNetwork.com is your place to go to find those out. Lots about the arts and culture scene in and around Alberta, so you can head. There's the Blue in the Face podcast, where they talk about culture, music, and food. I Don't Get It, which talks about performing arts in Edmonton. And the Mess Hall podcast, which does something that I think is right up our alley, where they talk to comedians about food. I think that should be our thing, where we get, whether it be on the blank line or the fourth line, we bring hockey and sports people on and just talk to them about food. That might be the greatest addition to the show. Thank you to the Mess Hall podcast for letting us steal that idea shamelessly. So you can head over there. And as well, Tomato Radio, they talk about food and drink in and around Edmonton as well. So lots of great shows over there. Head on over to albertapodcastnetwork.com and find those out. You can head on over to us. One thing I didn't mention off the top of the show, actually, is credit being to where credit is due. Lots of people did say, I'm enjoying the blank line as the name of the show. But we put the names in a hat. We drew the name. Graham at Clantastic on Twitter, one of our favorite, lots of great people over in Glasgow, big fans of the now Glasgow clan, from what I understand. So congrats to Graham on winning. So we'll get you off some prizes there for helping us name our show. Thank you very much for that. He did that on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, thefourthlinepodcast.com, where you can find out where to subscribe to us if you want to find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts. I guess it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Head on over to those if you want to subscribe. You will make sure that you never miss an episode of The Fourth Line or The Blank Line. And until next time,
Boom City.
Goodbye.